and I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Yeah, thank you. And we do have a team here to help where I go wrong. This is kind of a sudden issue that popped up. We have been granted $2.6 million for accessibility improvements in parks. This is a request Jamie Kate put in with the state and was in the bill that got passed at the end of the short session. We had not applied for this, and I will tell you that the state and Rep. Kate's office have been hammering me for getting our application in. And they're going to wait until tomorrow after we have this meeting so that we can get something pulled together. What we have done as staff is we went back to the 2007 refinement plan, and there are some notes in your staff report that identified kind of what some of the priorities were in that refinement plan. So looking at the priorities, looking at that refinement plan, which covered the entire Cheetah Lake area, including the private property that's in the kind of the middle of the map. It didn't include the parcel that's on the east side that we're set to buy in July. We recognize that refinement plan needs refinement, but because we need to come up with a plan for how we're spending this $2.6 million, we've cobbled together what we think are some elements that we can put in the park that would not be disruptive to future development. What we don't want to do is put in something that then requires us in a couple of years to come back and dig it all up to put something else in. So we really have focused on how to create accessibility in the park, how to create some development that would give us perhaps some revenue options in the park. So the amphitheater, which frankly in the refinement plan was kind of supposed to be clear over at the north end of the soccer field area. But because previous work has already put the berm where the amphitheater is located on this map, I think just better to keep the amphitheater here. And we aren't traversing across property we don't own. It does keep that performance facility then as part of like Strawberry Festival and other events really close together. It lets us put in the road with some paved ADA parking, which would be one of the accessibility improvements out by that amphitheater. That means people would be able to more easily access for any of the concerts that happen out there over the summer. It lets us put in hard surface trails to move around. The 3 baseball diamonds were identified, I should say baseball, softball, were identified in the refinement plan as a high priority, and we are looking at those likely being lit ball fields so that there could be evening play. Again, that would give us the opportunity to bring in some revenue from people renting those facilities for tournaments and league play and those kinds of things into the evening, adult league, for example. It does put in a combination building of a restroom and snack bar / concessions area that would be an accessible restroom. And then again, more trails, some ADA paved parking in that gray area that kind of comes up beside the south ball diamond. I'm going to give kudos to Kelly, who cobbled together this kind of sketch out based upon us sitting down as a group saying, here's kind of how things would fit. We recognize that before we go forward with turning a spade of dirt, we need to bring in like a landscape architect to really refine measurements, diagrams, exactly what earthwork needs to be done to finish the amphitheater, those kinds of things, identify plantings that we would put in place, some of those elements. But for the purposes of this discussion, wanted to give you at least a conceptual layout for the improvements we think we can do. And this does tie in the $2.6 million from the state with about $1 million in Parks SDC. We're looking at the possibility for 2 grants. They do have kind of future application and grant award deadlines, but all together turning that $2.6 million into maybe a $4.8 million project. Any other grants we can find that come along, we would also be seeking to do more in terms of development. Because we don't own the private property, I think from the staff perspective, this may not be a perfect plan, but it is something that gets us to a very functional park. We will be working with Strawberry Festival to make sure construction happens after Strawberry Festival and is all done before the next Strawberry Festival, not wanting to get in the way of that, but making sure that what we're doing here helps achieve some of their goals in terms of accessibility to the site for people during Strawberry Festival. There are other elements in the refinement plan that I think could ultimately land in this area. So if there's a desire, for example, for event space, a covered enclosed event space that would go into the festival fields. So what we're doing here is not going to get in the way of doing that enhancement in the future. We would not have to dig up anything that's being done here. And then at the end, we would kind of pave as much of that north parking lot as we could, leaving the area marked gravel area, at least for the time being, as gravel for where the carnival goes during Strawberry Festival, that would not need to be improved, at least for the present time. So that is a layout of the plan for what we think we can do at this point. And with that, we're going to try and answer questions.
One question, this gravel area that's kind of the south end,
Yes.
would that be paved later on?
Jason, I'm going to look to you because.
Sure. So that area will leave gravel for now because we really want to develop that piece of property we'll buy in July. And there'll be some utility extensions that'll come through there, maybe some other access improvements.
Okay.
So if we developed it any more past what the carnival uses it for currently,
Can't
We'd
put
probably
in a
have to-
truck door, huh?
we'd probably have to redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the plan, is it to eventually then have that paved, the gravel part?
Yeah, the ultimate goal
Okay.
would be to do that.
That's what I want to know, yeah.
Yes.
Because that's one of the most difficult things for people in wheelchairs is that gravel. But the plan looks really good. I'm very impressed with that. I like the parking, the trails, looks good.
Okay. And I will say, I think we've recognized that at some point in the future, we would probably want to bring in a landscape architect firm to do a broader park refinement plan that says we go back to the 2007 plan. I think there are some elements there that we think, maybe not, right? So one of those elements, for example, is we want a community center here. And I think there's opportunity for discussion. Is the community center here, or is the community center where the current senior center is, and we turn that into a community center? I think there are conversations like that we need to have as a community to say, where do we go with the next phase in terms of seeking additional funding or additional construction? And part of that will be, what do we do with this new parcel? How does that fit into the rest of the plan going forward? There's a perception here of having an RV park. Where would an RV park go? Would that be better on this eastern parcel, or where it was foreseen originally on that private property piece in the middle? Those are all conversations I think we'll want to have with the community when we have more time to really get some feedback and input and put together a really good plan for the future. But 2.6 million, have to say tomorrow what we're going to do with it. and that time clock is ticking. So
Is there ever a possibility that we'll get that centerpiece?
that is hard to tell. It's in private ownership. I don't know whether or not the owner, we certainly talk with the owner frequently about our desire to own that. They have not at this point extended an offer to sell it or dream of dreams, donate it. So it is difficult to tell at this point whether or not we would ever own it.
So just to be clear, this is the site that the Strawberry Festival currently uses for the festival. Am I
Right.
correct or
So,
incorrect?
so I think
Yes,
Kelly
correct.
can point on the map up here, the area that the festival, where the booths are set up is right there.
Yep.
They would ordinarily put the stage at the north end of that area, just south of that ball diamond. They would instead use the amphitheater for their performances. And then the carnival goes in the gravel area. So they would not be using the parts of the park that are identified for the ball fields. But I have to believe that the addition of the restroom building would be truly beneficial for Strawberry Festival. So that I think would play into part of that. And again, that's a conceptual location. We'd work with somebody on what is the best location for that. Want to make sure that we talk with Strawberry Festival about how that works with their plans.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I believe that the timing is interesting because I think that the Strawberry Festival, because they are the largest user of this area at this time, and
Talk a little bit louder.
I believe that the Strawberry Festival really needs to be in this conversation. They're the largest user of this park at the moment. They bring in the most tourism, the most money at the moment. Of course, there's conversations when that amphitheater is done. I mean, Albany is busting at the seams to send some of their concert series over here, and that's going to be fantastic. But from my understanding, there's only 2 fields right now, correct?
There's none.
Well, there's some old
Backstop-
fields.
There's a backstop, one old.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the parking in those 2 fields was not used readily until Saturday. In this in this verbiage here, we're talking about 1,000 parking spaces, a little over 1,000 parking spaces. Strawberry Festival does over 2,000 vehicles on Saturday. So the parking may not be used throughout the entire year, but it's certainly crucial for that weekend. And previously, the last festival, the parcel that's about to be purchased, I'm hoping that that can be used for parking as well, because that was used for parking. It was used for vendors, and it was used for RVs. Secondly, where the amphitheater is right now is, I believe, where the fireworks was shut off. So there needs to be some conversation about the fireworks, because the last fireworks show was done that direction towards the in the lake area, but that can't be really done for the festival. It's too far away for the festival. And if we're going to continue doing the 4th of July festival, it can't be. It should be somewhere in the park as well. That private property right now, I believe we were looking to use some of that for parking this year, and that's where Cindy could definitely reaffirm, but I believe that's where most of the parking was, and we're switching to free parking, which is going to make easier access into the park, quicker access into the park, quicker exit, because we had some problems last time. So we're changing the whole way that people get into the area and pay for the festival. That's all. That all has to do with parking.
So, Mr. G, if I may, nothing changes for parking this year for the Strawberry Festival. The 10 acres is still in use for parking.
Which one? Where's that?
The outlined in orange,
Okay.
it's under city control now.
Okay.
We don't own it in title, but we're leasing it until July.
Mhm.
So nothing will change there. The fireworks for the 4th of July celebration actually get set off from the island in the center of the lake.
That was the last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's not enough room inside the park to do that.
And I think there's some discussion about whether that island is, during the festival, if you can see it from there.
Yeah, so this year it was brought to me, and I've talked to the festival committee several times about some of these plans already. Meet with them officially tomorrow. It looks like they're gonna launch fireworks from the soccer fields this year, so they can use 4-inch mortars instead of 3. So that was the discussion we've had. Clarify that all tomorrow.
And was there discussion about using the large private property for parking this year? I believe that's where we're going to
That's
do
the
all the free
plan.
parking. And we have access to that even though somebody else owns it?
Yeah, we've been maintaining it in an agreement with them for that use. The city has, not the festival.
Well, first, let me say you've been doing a fantastic job of communicating with them. We all love you, so.
Thank you.
But I think that the Strawberry Festival certainly needs to be consulted. Unfortunately, it's flipped. They're being consulted tomorrow. But I think he has, as long as he feels that he has the Strawberry's best interest at heart, we might be able to do it. For example, the piece next to the fire station, that's also used on Saturday as well. That's how busy it gets Saturday. We do over 2,000 vehicles on Saturday. But again, it looks like we're only planning for about 1,000. So I don't know, as long as we keep that in mind, because otherwise we're looking for a lot of traffic. So much so that we even brought in shuttles last time so people could park at various different churches and bring them to to the festival, trying to accommodate all that parking issue. So between the shuttle, the extra space, switching the way that that it's being charged, not charging for parking, so people don't have to stop there and worry about money. They can just come in and park. We're hoping that that entire flow of traffic is much easier and much smoother.
I think if you start, if you start adding up what kind of tourism you can generate from the adult softball league, from the youth baseball league, from the lit fields out there, I think that the recreational tourism will far surpass on an annual basis the Strawberry Festival tourism. But I also don't think it really changes much of anything if everything's focused around use of that private property and the property next to the fire station, which is already in place. I don't see how this really impacts anything for Strawberry Festival other than reduced use of that far out field, the field between the amphitheater and the main park area, which could still be used. I mean, just because it's a ball field doesn't mean you can't put booths and vendors out there. I'm not sure what the plans would be for surface, but I'm guessing it would be grass, not turf, and but who knows, right?
Hope for turf, but
Sure. But I think it looks great, and I think it kind of looks a lot like the original design from way back when of what the Cheeto Lake Foundation intended for this property back in the day. And yeah, it's exciting to think of.
I think, Counselor, one of the reasons I brought it up is that third field. That third field is the main parking area right now. But the Strawberry Festival has switched that because they have that private property area to park in. So as long as we still have that private property area to park in, everything will work out. If we lose that, then there'll be some parking issues. Also, is there some discussion about RV park or that as well? Where would that go?
Well, so the 2007 plan had like a 300 space RV park kind of right in the center of the current private property.
Mhm.
So if we don't acquire that, or if we decide we want to do something different, that becomes, that's an element that's not currently built into this plan at all. And it's an element that I think as we look at coming back to refine that 2007 refinement plan would have to be rethought about where it could go, whether we acquire that property or not. Is that still what you would want to put on that private property, or do you want to put an RV park someplace else? At this point, we're dealing with a small section of the park, but you actually run all the way over to the soccer fields. I want to say my recollection of the plan was it was RV park to the north end of that private property and the soccer fields down on the Wyrick Road side. I don't remember exactly what was in the current soccer field area. So do you want to go back to that? Would be part of that community conversation, or do we like the soccer fields where they are now? We want to leave them there, enhance them there, maybe add parking over in that area to make them more accessible, and then do something entirely different on that private property parcel should we be able to acquire it. And I think at some point we have to think about if we can't acquire it, what does that mean in terms of accessibility, trails, sidewalks, those kinds of things to be able to get from one part of the park to another. And I think it's been absolutely clear to everyone in the community that the city wants to own the entire lakefront, right? We want that trail system all the way around the lakefront as a critical recreation amenity for the community and as a regional draw, right? It's a beautiful lake. The ability to go out and walk along there is delightful. It would be nice to be able to make a full circuit. So that is part of our trail master plan, currently calls for that. So we would get the trail at development if they decide to develop that private property, but for the time being, we don't have that.
May I ask for definition of RV park? In my mind, because I'm not very familiar, is there a difference between something where you go and you park there for a couple of nights and go versus one that you stay and live in?
Yes.
So
It is not a stay and live in place.
Not a stay and live in.
Gill's Landing.
It's Gill's
Yeah,
Landing. We have a
That's where you
few,
stay, that's where you live in.
we, no,
Okay, so Gill's Landing
That's
is,
temporary.
what is the max stay?
30?
30? I think.
But by special permission if somebody's working in
Oh.
town. But 10 days,
10 days. So that's what we're looking at doing at this location as well, if we can. I've been out to the property where, the one that we're gonna buy, and I feel like there's space there for that. I agree again with Counselor Boland, those type of amenities make for the opportunity for us to bring people in and spend money in town, especially if we're promoting the trails. Not necessarily anything that's happening in the park, but if you can coincide it with that, with the amphitheater and any festivals, because we have a few festivals that come to town, but and even some the bike competition and things like that. So if we can provide that space for people to stay for 4 days, 7 days, 10 days, I think that'd be fantastic. Even piggybacking off of some of the activities that happen in Sweet Home, because they run out of space.
yeah. And I think we recognize that, right? Vendors for Strawberry Festival, you know, people coming for Pirate Festival.
Right.
It all provides an opportunity for people to spend more time in
Right.
town.
As a matter of fact, to elaborate your point, most of the vendors that we use request or require to be able to at least dry camp, or else they can't come.
Right.
Because it's you know, we're not on the path, we're off the beaten path, and they come from far, spend at least 4 days, and they need a place to stay, and they can't stay in the hotel, motel. They want to stay near their booth.
Yep.
So that's where they park, actually, where we're about to buy. They park there. We leave a space for them to dry camp there.
I do think it's important to make sure I'm clear on a couple things. One, we have decided to push back working on the park master plan, as working on this one project is like suddenly taking high priority from staff. And at some point, we'll have to talk about what it will take in terms of additional operating and maintenance costs for this park as an undeveloped park. Yeah, hop on a riding mower and go back and forth a bunch of times and you're done. Once we develop it, there will be more work, you know, edging and weed eating and, you know, taking care of the bathroom and the ball fields. So there will be some additional operating costs we're going to have to address as we move forward. Just want to make sure that y'all know and are not surprised when that pops up as a need for perhaps an additional park resource or contract for maintenance or something like that. So just no surprises in the future.
Can I ask another question about the parcel to purchase? There's a gate from Wyrick Road that goes from there on the gravel road all the way to that space. Is that part of the purchase too? Is that there?
it is.
It is? That's fantastic. Awesome.
So if y'all are good with that, we will work on getting that application filled out into the state tomorrow and see if we can't get this moving forward. The other caveat here is we have no information on the strings attached to this money and no information until they get our application on when we have to spend it by. So that still is kind of up in the air too. We do not expect to be doing any construction this summer. It will be next summer. That gives us some time here to do the plan, get some of the grant applications in for matching funds and some things like that, is at least staff's expectation currently. So just so you know, don't be thinking you're going to go out there the third week in June and see ditch diggers. So,
Hopefully not.
yeah.
Could any of this be used to help with the acquisition needed out on the say the west side, the other side of the lake around where the property?
It cannot. To my understanding, what is identified in the bill passed by the state is $2.6 million Lebanon Park accessibility improvements. And I feel like that puts at least some brackets around how that money can be spent. I think if we needed to acquire property to make an accessibility improvement, then yeah, maybe, but to do this, we don't need to acquire property, so I think not.
You gotta see what the parameters are of the money
We do.
for use. This is just saying, we're gonna give you this. And then we'll tell you how you can use it afterwards.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's government action.
Can we get a follow-up too, once we figure out what those parameters are, so we're
Sure.
aware?
Sure, we will be sharing information as we work with like a landscaper, civil engineer, something on plans and come up with something more refined. As Kelly would say, better measurements, better than just cut and paste a ball diamond in and say, this is kind of where we think it would go. We can bring that back. We would be happy to bring that back and share it with the council to say, here's kind of where we're headed in terms of this is where the actual things are going and what they're going to look like.
Okay, yeah, because maybe you could fit 3 ball diamonds on the right if we can copy and paste a little tighter. I don't know. But I know what you're doing on that, so thank you for your work on it.
Any of this under wetlands?
I don't think so, no.
Good.
I'm looking at Jason and he's shaking his head no.
No,
There certainly are wetlands around, but not on the part of what's being proposed here.
just the timbered area is the only identified wetland on that whole park site, except for by the lake itself.
I wanted to give a big thank you to our state representative, Jamie Kate, who did this for us. She was on the Strawberry, and her and I talked about this. Gosh, Jason, when did we go and do? It was about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I think the design we had from this very first thing was 6 years ago.
Yeah, we started talking about accessibility and trying to make it better. And Jason we'd done some temporary fixes. So this is really going to be positive. People with strollers, people with walkers, wheelchairs. It's just difficult to get around out there. And even in that deep, thick grass, it's tough. So even having, some of the lines going across or the walkways going across, those are very, very helpful. And I appreciate you guys working on everything, because a lot of this is kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
We didn't talk too much about the amphitheater, but it's neat to see that the amphitheater is on there, because I know that's been a dream of the old Cheetah Lake Foundation from day one. That was their big crowning thing that they wanted to do. So very nice. And again, thanks to Jamie Kate for looking out for her community and helping us out with this. And hopefully we get it.
Yep, she did good work. So that was all on that work session, unless you've got something
Okay.
else you want to
I think that's
raise.
Hey, Jason, this could be premature, but the restroom snack bar is going to be like centrally located in between the
Kinda in the-
fields.
I think it was designed originally to go kind of in the center of.
In the
all three of
center.
those backstops.
If we're looking at true softball fields, maybe some dugouts and stuff like that, make it really nice.
It's designed for full build.
Absolutely. I've been in conversation with, as you know, with Albany, and they're going to be bringing in large softball tournaments, 3 to 4 in the summer. And we're really looking at annexing some of that to our area and partaking in that travel and the food trucks and the vendors and that kind of thing. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Good opportunity to link up to the Chamber's new app on what's happening in Lebanon.
That's right.
Yeah.
So these
excited
three,
about
just
that,
another
actually.
thing too, sorry, these 3, and then we have, I'm trying to think of all the other ball fields in town, right? The ones that Christopher
Well, these are
Columbus
the
or
fields
whatever
from
it's
Bob
called.
Smith that Kelly industrially moved to this map. So we have the 3 fields there, one small youth field at Christopher Columbus and one at
Oh,
Century
okay.
Youth.
Okay,
These fields would be built out to the highest level,
okay,
and then they'd be able to be pinned back to every level. So from the youngest kids to the high school kids.
I was thinking with tournaments, then you have essentially 3 locations, but maybe for adults, you really just would have, or adults, maybe the older, like high school and up. This would be the one area for that. Am I correct? Okay. Well, that's great.
It would be
Okay.
baseball and softball combination fields.
When you hit a home run, it's in the
Thank you.
or in a car.
Anything else? Okay, we'll adjourn the work session. And I'll call the meeting to order, and please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call roll, please?
Counselor Dykstra,
Here.
Counselor Bolin,
Here.
Counselor Nassar, Counselor Reese-Camp's absent, Counselor Steinhebel,
Here.
and Counselor Olfers.
Here.
Okay, we'll